Hi, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade leaders. We're preparing for September 1st in our series called Back to Basics. In our series, we've been looking at Solomon. We'll continue to, after this week, to look at Elijah and Elisha and how God had prepared for different people to lead his people, to show them who God is, first off, and then also to prepare them for Jesus coming. We'll begin in this lesson to look at what is called the divided kingdom. Solomon was leader over the Israelites, and Solomon was a good leader. He made many good choices. But there came a time in his leadership where he began to worship and to participate in religious activities that did not show that he was trusting in only the one true God. And so because of that, there are consequences like there would be for us. There were consequences to Solomon. And so what God did was he separated the kingdom. He separated God's kingdom. He took his sons and he separated into a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. In the northern kingdom, he put Jeroboam over the tribes of Israel. And then in the southern kingdom, he put Rehoboam over the tribes in the southern kingdom that we'll come to know as Judah. Remember, Jesus comes from the tribe of Judah. So the separation also helps show us that God is still preparing his people and he's still making a way for them to know that that our Savior King, our perfect King is coming, which is Jesus. We can also see through all of this that as God had warned the Israelites, that a perfect earthly king is not possible, and that everything that you think you're going to get when you get an earthly king is not going to happen. Remember, he said this to the Israelites from the very beginning of time. And we see this even to the point of where they are upset with Jesus because he is not the king that they were expecting. God had prepared his people for a very long time to know that an earthly king is not the kind of king that he's going to provide for them. He's providing them a perfect Savior King, and that may look very different than the earthly king they were expecting. All right, in your small group time, you have your Would You Rather cards, and they're marked for 9:30 or 11, depending on how much service you serve in. Those activities are for you to help build relationships with kids. I encourage you to get kids to mix up with each other and to not answer those questions for somebody that they already know, to find somebody else that they don't know and get their answers to those questions. Maybe you want to do it all together as a big group and get everybody talking to each other. You can always do it like that. We try to give you the resources. You are welcome to adjust it however fits your group best. These activities are important because when we do activities like this, when we play games with our kids, what we are showing our kids is that we can be trusted and trustworthy. And because we can be trusted and trustworthy, then we have built, hopefully through fun things together and ways that they can remember us or relate to us. Say maybe one of the things you talk about is that you like turtles, and one person in your group absolutely loves turtles, and so they can begin to relate to you because you like turtles, both of you together. And when you make those connections with each other, you have what's called relational equity. When you have that relational equity, you can share much bigger things. This is true not only with kids, but with adults. Once you have built a relationship with someone, you have a whole lot more ability than sometimes you're aware of, and I know that's definitely true for me, to have a deeper level of conversation. You're able to bring things up about talking about God. Everything we prepare you for in small group, you could transfer and do in an adult setting as well, because you are beginning to build confidence in knowing who you are and who God created you to be. So all of that your social activity, and then we'll do large group. And then after large group, we're going to play a game called Whole or Half-Hearted. And this should be a lot of fun with your group of kids. I think it should be a whole lot of fun. What you have are some blue cards. And what you're going to do is pass out a blue card to each kid in your small group and ask them not to show it to anybody. And what they're going to do is act out doing whatever is on their card wholeheartedly, and then they're going to act out doing it what they think looks like half-heartedly, which means not all the way. And it just kind of shows us that those things that we think are important, most of the time we will work at with our whole heart. Those things that we don't always see as important, sometimes we don't work at it with our whole heart. In fact, my grandma had a term for that you might even know what it is. And I'm not going to say it on here, but I think you know what I'm getting at. She would tell us all the time, it's not worth doing if you're not going to do it all the way. And so it might be good to have that conversation with kids and ask them, are there things that they do that maybe they could rethink how they do it? Because if you're going to do anything, you should do it with your whole heart. And for sure, we should follow God with our whole heart. We shouldn't give him half of us and have our kingdoms divided like Solomon's. We shouldn't give half of our devotion to God and then half of our devotion to whatever else we think is important at the time, or another God or another religious practice. That we should make sure that we give God everything we have to give all of the time. So that should be a really great discussion for you to do during your small group time. Your memory verse activity, you have a poster that looks like this. You also have some sticky notes that look like this. Each sticky note has a word of the memory verse on it. And what you're going to do is turn your poster over, and you're going to put all of the words of from the sticky notes on the back of your poster. You can lay them out on the table too, because there's a lot of words. But one, and you get to choose what that one word is. And the kids have to guess which word is missing from your poster. So if you want to lay it out on the table and all but one word is missing, and they have to put it in order to figure out, you could do it that way as well. It's a way to help us memorize this very important verse that says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. James 1:5. So important to know that if there is ever a time, and I know it's happened to me many times, where I felt like I didn't know enough. I didn't know enough about the Bible. I didn't know enough to pray. I didn't know enough to be a small group leader. I didn't know enough to even share with somebody else how important Jesus is to me. But every time I stopped to pray and ask God to show me and to give me wisdom, he's done it, and he's done it abundantly, more than I needed, just like this verse says. So what I know from personal practice is every time I have stopped and gotten out of myself enough to say, God, I need you to help me figure this out. He has provided more and more and more than I could ever imagine, without finding fault or looking at me and saying, oh, I can't believe you don't know that. Just like we would sometimes with our kids, right? All right. And then you can pray and send your kids home once their family comes to pick them up. Pickup time is a great time to encourage a family member with what we were teaching today, possibly something great that came out of small group that you'd like a family member to know. We want to make sure that confidentiality is important, especially at the ages of the kids in your group. But if there is something that stands out to you without using anybody's name or specifics, you are welcome to share with them how amazing it was to have a conversation with your kids about what wholehearted and half-hearted looks like. Thank you so much for leading our kids to Jesus. I'll see you guys soon.